The year is 1258. The Tigris River runs black with ink and red with blood. The Mongol hordes stand at the gates of Baghdad, and the intellectual heart of the world stops beating. This is the timeline you know. The history books tell us the Golden Age ended in fire and ruin, casting a long shadow over centuries of what could have been. But history is fragile. A single decision, a shifted wind, a forgotten alliance, and the tapestry unwraps differently. Imagine a reality where the gates held, where the books of the House of Wisdom were never burned, but digitized. A timeline where the scientific momentum of the 9th century never hit a wall, but accelerated for 1,000 years unbroken. Forget the geopolitical map you see on your screens today. Picture a world where the black banner of the Abbasids flies over supercities powered by zero-point energy derived from ancient algebra. A world where the Caliph speaks to a global empire from a throne room suspended in magnetic levitation above a neon-drenched Baghdad. Today on Wikivedia Plus, we will explore a timeline where the Abbasid Caliphate survived until 2026, transforming into the world's premier technological and cultural superpower. Let's dive in. To understand the Neo-Abbasid world of 2026, we must first pinpoint the divergence. In our reality, the Caliphate was internally fractured, its guards disloyal, its coffers drained by excess. When Hulagu Khan arrived, the collapse was inevitable. But in this alternate stream of time, let us posit a revitalization occurring 50 years prior. A ruthless, enlightened caliph, perhaps a historical figure, whose true potential was cut short in our timeline, or a completely new variable consolidates power. They recognize the approaching storm from the east. Instead of relying solely on mercenaries, they turn to the scholars. The House of Wisdom is weaponized. The masterful understanding of chemistry, optics, and mechanics, previously used for wondrous automata and philosophical treatises, is turned toward defense. When the Mongols arrive, they are not met with mere arrows, but with early forms of weaponized gunpowder, refined naphtha throwers that turn the desert into an inferno, and intricate mechanical traps guarding the city walls. The siege of Baghdad in this reality is not a massacre, but a stalemate that lasts 2 years, breaking the momentum of the Khanate. The city survives, the knowledge survives. And the lesson is learned forever. Science is survival. By the year 1500, while Europe is still grappling with the early Renaissance, the Abbasid territories stretching from the borders of China to the Atlantic coast of Morocco are undergoing an industrial revolution, powered not initially by coal, but by advanced hydraulics and solar thermal concepts derived from their mastery of optics. They don't just invent the steam engine, they bypass it quickly for cleaner, more efficient energy sources suggested by their deep mathematical understanding of the universe. The astrolabe evolves into complex analog computers, guiding colossal trade ships made of reinforced alloys across ocean centuries before European powers dominate the seas. Let us fast forward to the present day, the year 2026 in the Gregorian calendar, or the year 1447 of the Hijri calendar. The geopolitical center of this world is not Washington, Beijing, or Brussels, it is Neo-Baghdad. The ancient round city design of Caliph al-Mansur has been replicated on a massive scale. The city is concentric circles of impossibly high architecture, a fusion of classic Islamic geometric design and futuristic materials. Graphene-infused minarets pierce the stratosphere, serving not just as calls to prayer, but as atmospheric energy harvesters and global communication nodes. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers are crystal clear, managed by massive subterranean filtration systems that hold back the desert and maintain a lush, verdant microclimate around the capital. The House of Wisdom, the Beit al-Hikmah, is no longer just a library. It is a city-sized complex, the global epicenter of quantum computing and artificial intelligence research. Here, the algorithms are written in a hybridized script of Arabic and advanced mathematical notation, direct descendants of al-Khwarizmi's work. They call their AI the Jinn, immense computational entities that manage the complex logistics of an empire spanning 3 continents. These Jinn do not rule. They serve the Caliph and the Council of Scholars, operating under strict ethical guidelines derived from centuries of theological debate regarding the nature of soul and mind. Transport across this vast empire is seamless. The concept of the caravan has evolved into high-speed maglev vacuum trains connecting Cairo to Samarkand in hours. The skies over the Mediterranean are filled with silent, solar-winged aircraft transporting goods and people between the thriving Andalusian provinces of Spain and the bustling ports of the Levant. The Pax Abyssidia, the Abbasid peace, has maintained a relatively stable world order for centuries, enforced by a military superiority so vast that major conflicts are rare. Their dominance isn't based on sheer numbers, but on technological asymmetry. Why fight a ground war when you can neutralize an enemy's infrastructure using focused sonic weaponry developed from the study of acoustics in 10th century music theory? But pause for a moment. Look past the gleaming towers of Neo-Baghdad and the quiet hum of maglev trains. If an empire born in the 8th century survives unbroken into the 21st, what does that do to the human soul? In a world where scientific advancement is a religious duty, where does faith end and technology begin? If the Abbasids control the global narrative, what happened to the cultures they subsumed or the rivals they outpaced? A 1200-year continuity of power is not a utopia. It is a magnificent, terrifying monolith. Let us look deeper into the society of this 2026. The average citizen of the Abbasid Caliphate in 2026 lives a life of high technological integration balanced by deep social conservatism. The societal structure is rigid, yet meritocratic within its own boundaries. Education is paramount. A citizen in Damascus or Cordoba speaks 3 languages fluently and is expected to have a working knowledge of advanced mathematics and philosophy by age 16. The univocity of being, a concept debated by ancient philosophers like Avicenna, is now the foundational theory of their unified field physics. Medicine has advanced beyond our comprehension. Building on the foundational texts of al-Razi and Ibn Sina, Neo-Abbasid medical science views the body as a complex, divine machine. Genetic diseases were eradicated centuries ago through therapies derived from early alchemical practices that evolved into precise molecular editing. Life expectancy routinely exceeds 120 years. Hospitals are serene, garden-like environments where sound therapy and nanotechnology work in tandem to repair the human form. Culturally, the world is vastly different. The dominant global aesthetic is not Western minimalism, but complex, recursive Islamic patterns. You see it in the architecture of skyscrapers in London, a tributary state of the Caliphate, where glass facades are etched with intricate arabesques that shift with the sunlight. Global cinema is dominated by the massive studios of Cairo and Tehran, producing epic, philosophical narratives that value collective duty and spiritual destiny over individualist hero journeys. The internet exists, but it is structured differently, a curated grand library, rather than a chaotic free-for-all, monitored by AI guardians designed to filter out what the state deems corruption of the intellect. This brings us to the inevitable shadows of this bright reality. The Abbasid Caliphate of 2026 is, by definition, an authoritarian regime. Though its proponents would call it an enlightened guardianship, the Caliph, currently a shadowy figure known as al-Mustaq V4, is rarely seen in person, existing as a digitally omnipresent symbol of unity. Dissent is managed not through brute force, but through social credit systems and subtle re-education protocols monitored by the Jinn AI. The stability of the empire is maintained by a pervasive intelligence apparatus, the eyes of the Caliph, which uses predictive algorithms to identify potential social fractures before they occur. Economically, the world uses a digital gold standard, the cyber dinar. The Caliphate controls the vast majority of the world's rare earth minerals, mined ethically using robotic labor in their African and Central Asian territories. The West Europe and the Americas are secondary powers in this world. They are the developing nations, struggling to catch up to the scientific juggernaut of the East, their histories marked by fragmentation and internecine wars that the stable caliphate avoided. The Americas are a patchwork of smaller nations, heavily reliant on Abbasid aid and technology, looking toward Baghdad with a mix of resentment and awe. In this 2026, humanity has reached the stars, but the motivation was different. Space exploration wasn't a Cold War race. It was a spiritual imperative to understand the cosmos created by the divine. Abbasid lunar bases are architectural marvels, domed cities on the moon's surface dedicated to deep space astronomy, their telescopes searching not just for exoplanets, but for the mathematical fingerprints of God in the cosmic microwave background. They have already sent unmanned probes to Alpha Centauri, powered by propulsion systems that manipulate gravity itself, a secret fiercely guarded by the highest circle of scientists in Baghdad. Yet, beneath the surface of this scientific golden age, ancient tensions simmer. There are underground philosophical movements that question the rigid fusion of state and faith. There are analog communes in the Atlas Mountains that reject the pervasive technology of the cities, yearning for a simpler connection to the divine unchecked by algorithms. And there is the eternal question that haunts the Caliph and his council. In a world where humanity has unlocked the secrets of the atom and the genome, is there still a need for the structure that brought them there? The 2026 Abbasid Caliphate is a testament to the power of preserved knowledge. It is a world where the Dark Ages never happened, where the torch of antiquity was never dropped. It is magnificent, advanced, and deeply alien to our modern sensibilities. It forces us to ask, is the chaotic, fractured, freewheeling world we live in preferable to a stable, scientifically advanced, but spiritually directed hegemony? The answer, like the winding streets of ancient Baghdad, is never straight. As the echoes of today's story fade into the vast library of what could have been, we are left only with the questions. History is a branching path, and we have walked but one. Until next time, keep turning the pages. This has been Wikivedia Plus.